I wonder how many care leaders are aware of quite how important digital marketing is when it comes to driving inquiries, particularly for private payers. In a world where care seekers are increasingly using Google and social media to research care services, care organisations that don't understand the facts around digital marketing will unfortunately miss out. To explore more about the subject of digital marketing in the care sector, I've just had a really valuable conversation with none other than Adam James. Adam is a digital marketing and PR expert for the care sector, and he runs Springup PR. So if you want more inquiries, particularly from privately funded clients, then this is a conversation that you're going to want to watch from start to finish. My name's Simon Parker, and this is the Care Leaders Network podcast. Today, Adam and I will be talking about dramatically increasing occupancy using digital marketing. So, Adam, in a world where there are so many things happening in social care at the moment, why do we need to be talking about digital marketing?
Yeah, well, great question. Digital marketing comes into play when a care provider has a particular problem that they feel they need fixing. Now, usually it comes into play when a care provider needs more, a residential care provider wants more inquiries, particularly from self-funding families. Same again for home care, domiciliary care agencies. If they want more inquiries, more leads, they want, in the parlance, more customers. They want to increase occupancy faster. They want to build themselves as a home care agency. They want to get more clients because they want to grow as an agency, and they want to grow faster. It may come into play, for example, if a care home has had a drop in occupancy for whatever reason, not recovered since COVID, have had a bad reputation recently, and feel that has affected them. More competition in the area, which we see happening. So then the problem that a care provider may face is they need more inquiries because they need more residents, or they may need more clients as a home care agency. So then a care provider has to think, well, how am I going to get those more inquiries and clients? So that's when the care provider marketing and PR in order to get more inquiries. Now, digital marketing, you have various possibilities, Facebook in particular, and Google pay-per-click. But there is a role for marketing, but what was called marketing is now largely digital marketing. There's still a role to play for other methods. But on your question, to make sure I answer it properly, the second reason is, where does digital marketing come into play? Why should they think about it? Is that if a care provider is wanting more staff, particularly care staff, and where do those care staff hang out? They are certainly on Facebook, and they are reachable also on Google, but they are certainly on Facebook. So that is would be one medium if a care provider is thinking digitally about how to get more staff because they want to grow, they want to there is a recruitment issue and they want to think of different ways to get more staff, then Facebook and to some extent TikTok would come into play as a digital marketing method.
The two big things there, obviously, that you've highlighted are, let's call it top line growth, because of course, if you're talking about different types of care organizations, maybe they've got a different terminology, whether they're trying to increase their care hours, their occupancy, or whatever it might be, depending on the type of organization. That's never not going to be important, in a world particularly where operating costs are increasing really, really quite dramatically. there's only so much that you can do about that. But from a top line revenue perspective, your biggest lever when it comes to driving achieving a sustainable business is making sure that your top line is correctly managed. So digital marketing, as you're saying, can play into that particular realm. And then recruitment, you know, building the workforce. If there are any care providers out there that aren't struggling with recruitment, I'd be interested to speak to them, because everyone seems to be at the moment. Obviously, there's a spectrum there. Of course, some people are finding it harder than others. But I'd certainly put forward that the ones that seem to be dealing with the set of circumstances best are taking advantage of digital marketing channels, particularly around paid advertising, around Facebook, etc., as well. So of course, I asked the question kind of slightly knowing the answer in this particular instance, but I think it's an important part to frame, because digital marketing, it's not the mainstay of social care a lot of the time, but it probably should be, because the world is changing dramatically. So and I guess you must see that an awful lot with the people that you work with and the prospective care clients that you speak to, just from a landscape perspective around how people are being sophisticated from a digital marketing perspective, and those who maybe aren't so much.
Yeah, exactly right. It does always depend on the situation that a care provider is facing, and you know, some care providers are doing a lot more on digital marketing than others. And you know, I've mentioned, I think, in this up to now, kind of 2 or 3 avenues, but there's a multitude of different approaches that can be taken. What I do know 100% is that if you launch Google pay-per-click ads properly and you have a good tracking system, that you can get more inquiries from self-funding families than if you didn't. I just know that, because you'll do it in the same way. I know that if you do proper Facebook ads and you are a care provider and you want to get more leads from prospective families, I know you will get those within 10 hours of doing it properly. So then the question arises, well, you know, what cost per inquiry, what cost per new resident, that always comes into play, and there's many variables on it. But you know, what I do know is that they will get you those results. The question is you know, what the ROI is on everything that you do.
Just to pop back for a second there. So you're completely comfortable that if you set up your paid ads correctly, that you can generate a return on investment from paid advertising? Because I think that's probably
100%. It depends, of course, what you are prepared to spend to get a new inquiry that you wouldn't otherwise get. It depends upon how much you're happy to spend to get a new resident via means that you wouldn't otherwise get. So again, you know, if you know that, for example, the lifetime revenue of a self-funding is talking about purely about the numbers, and you know, I know that every care provider is there to provide the best care, but you know, I'm involved and look at the numbers as any serious care provider would look at. And if you know that, let's say, an average resident self-funding will their fees would equate to 80,000 over a year or a year and a half, whatever your average lifetime value of a resident is, then you have to equate, well, if the client is worth 80,000, how much am I prepared to spend to get a client of 80,000? So those numbers come into play. Same again for Facebook. How much am I prepared to spend on Facebook to get a new resident? You know, using that platform for a resident that I wouldn't otherwise get. and that's the key here. So different providers have different numbers on that, but we do this. I do this, so I can see it. The question is, how much are you prepared to spend to get a new resident or a new client? And the same again for a new staff member.
So, okay. So, and thanks just for breaking that down. Like, from a commitment, from a spend commitment, what level is required from a care provider to run an effective digital marketing campaign?
Again, it's a side. Let's take an example of an individual care home. Let's just say one care home, and let's say they have a capacity of 50, and let's say for whatever reason they're at 30 or 40, so they've got either 20 or 10 beds to fill. And there might be a number of reasons why it's an additional priority. £1,000 a month, just to give a number. Doesn't have to be that. The beauty of digital marketing is you can start off with £200 a month, see how it goes. But if you're serious, you'd be around about the £750, £1,000 a month. But your Google has got to be right. Yeah, and your tracking's got to be right. I was speaking to a care provider the other day. £80,000 they'd spent on Google over a number of years. They weren't able to tell exactly how many inquiries and exactly how many residents they had got as a result of 80,000. Why? Right. Because they'd not done the Google ads properly, and they'd not done the correct tracking. So, but whether it's 80,000 or 8,000, you need to have the systems in place to do. Anyone can do Google ads. You and I can learn how to do Google ads. I wouldn't do it now because it's really highly complicated. But anyone can do it. It's like, do you want to do it well, or do you want to just do it? So they're different things.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That applies to lots of stuff, doesn't it?
To everything. Yeah.
I was completely unconnected, but we were chatting about the battle I've had with long COVID. I've been learning about breathing exercises, and sometimes when I talk to people about breathing exercises, they kind of look at me like I'm a bit cuckoo, because everyone can breathe. Like, why would you have to do an exercise to do breathing? But there's a real difference between just breathing and doing breathing exercises. And I know it's kind of maybe a silly analogy, but like, everyone can run paid ads, as you said, but there's a real difference between running paid ads and just running paid ads, and having the infrastructure there, having the data there, being able to track everything, having everything set up in a way where you can see that clear, demonstrable return on investment, which is kind of important. If you're going to put £1,000 a month into a campaign, you want to know that you're going to get X out, and X needs to be bigger than £1,000, and to what extent, and all of that type of stuff.
And another example is on the Facebook ads. If you're running Facebook ads for to prospective families to get their interest, and again for staff, you can turn on Facebook ads tomorrow, and you're going to get leads, like bucket loads of leads, possibly. But those are just leads. Actual fact, with Facebook ads, the real work comes in how you follow up those leads via text, email, and phone. So the digital marketing element to get the leads on Facebook is only one element.
That's the beginning part, right?
That's to get, Simon, thank you for your phone number. You've given me your email address. You're interested in the possibility of finding more about a care home via Facebook, because you express an interest in a Facebook ad. But then I, as a care provider, have to work to get in touch with you. I'll have to email you, phone you, and then you're not going to respond. So I'm going to have to do it all again. I have to email and phone you and text you again. And you might not even respond then. And I have to do it again to find out whether I can help you as a care home, because you've expressed an interest in care of some kind or not. So the work comes in with Facebook, less so. We're just talking about the moment about Facebook and Google, but those are the main digital marketing platforms. But Google, the intent is higher because someone's searching for a care home. 94% of people search online when looking for a care home. 94% they're involved in that process. But there's a higher intent with Google. You're searching care home in Leeds, care home in Gloucester, goes to you, I make an inquiry. There's a higher intent with Facebook. It's generally the leads are less hot, they're not as warm. So you actually have to do the work to get in contact with the leads. So there's much more proactive involvement, for example, of getting leads via Facebook, again for staff or families, compared to Google.
That seems like a really interesting and important point. The fact that the paid advertising bit, that's the beginning, the bit that needs really good implementation. Is like, you've got that high quality lead, you've got that mobile number, you've got that person's details, they've registered their interest. What happens then? Because that doesn't magically turn into somebody moving into a care home or investing in some type of home care type service. There's a void that happens in between there, and I guess that's often where care providers could fall short. So they need to have the systems in place. Talking about systems, you highlighted a care provider earlier that had spent, was it £80,000? Really no. Doesn't sound like they got no results, but there was a huge amount of ambiguity around what they'd spent and what they got back and all that type of stuff. Like, how do you go about turning around a set of circumstances like that? Because I can imagine that they were furious to start off with, because that's a huge amount of money. Like, where does one go from there in that set of circumstances? Talk me through kind of the process around how you made good of the previous, I guess it was previous agency, or them doing it under their own steam.
They're doing it in house. To be honest, if we were to tackle that, we would start all over again.
Well,
because we did an audit, a free audit of their campaign, and literally they weren't tracking anything. They had no, Google changes every month. Now it's all about machine learning. Google's algorithm uses machine learning to help create its own ads based on the information that you as a human provide it.
Sure.
So it's a mixture of human and machine learning, a very basic form of AI. But this is going to be moving fast within over the next 6 months. So, and if you haven't got, it helps if you have a track on, what Google is doing, how to maneuver through all the different changes that it's made over the weeks and months. To be clear, this 80,000 figure I was talking about was over years. They've been doing it for years, but they hadn't changed with the time, so to speak. It used to be very easy actually for anyone to go in and set up Google Ads. Now it's just so much more complicated. It's literally more complicated. And there's so many more variables involved. I don't do Google Ads. We have a specialist who does it. So I wouldn't dream of doing it now. But and to make sure I'm answering your question, we're not working with them, but if we did, that would be the first thing we would do, is shut it down and start all over again. And to be clear, the basics would be restart the whole campaign, everything from ad campaigns, to the copy, for the tracking, to the conversion tracking, and monitoring of all the different, like there's about 12, 13 important metrics. We're getting quite technical here about what you need to have a handle on. But tracking is very, very important. You need to be able to understand, in order to understand how Google Ads and Facebook, but there's 6 of Google Ads at the moment, work. You need to have a system that every time you're getting an email, a brochure download, a live chat, a phone call, a guide from your website, whether it's coming from a Google pay-per-click ad or not, whether it's coming from an organic or referral system. So you have to have a handle on tracking, because that helps you then make an assessment of that ROI that we were talking about. Otherwise, you're guessing, which is not a bad thing always, but sometimes your guessing can't be right.
Sure, there's got to be that mixture of, I guess, let's call it intuition. Makes it sound like it's more intelligent guessing, but it's pretty much the same thing. That plus having some really clear data to go on. At least you're balancing the kind of the approaches there with your kind of intuition, and then also taking a data-driven approach as well.
And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not. It's like there is work, with everything, to do it well. There's work, and that there is that involved. I mean, there's also missed calls as well. I mean, we see often the care provider is missing calls, and we know because we track it. And a missed call from someone who's making an inquiry. So again, let's talk about what we were talking about from the beginning. Let's say a resident is worth 80,000. I mean, or 100,000. You're missing a call from them. That's something to consider. But that's something again you can track.
Yes, definitely. It's when I was running my management consultancy business, I did an awful lot of mystery shopping, and I spent an awful lot of time ringing care homes that didn't pick up. There's an awful lot of that, and obviously I wasn't a real customer. But what happens when it is? If it doesn't matter whether it's £50,000 or £100,000, if you're missing out on that additional revenue that, to your point earlier, that you wouldn't have had otherwise, you might never know. You could be floating around at 85% occupancy, and you could be at 95% occupancy, but you're just missing those key inquiries. So picking that up, costs you money at the end of the day. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier about machine learning and AI. I think particularly now, 12 months ago, people were talking about machine learning and AI and all that type of stuff. I think most people would have thought that, that's something for the future. That's something that's going to come a little bit later on down the line. It seems that AI is upon us. It's happening now. It's having more and more implications in day-to-day life. And I've chatted to a few different senior leadership teams from not just from the care sector, but from other sectors and industries as well. And a lot of them are sat there thinking, oh wow, this is serious, and we know that we need to act. It's clearly going to have implications when it comes to digital marketing. Talk to me about your view on AI, because this seems like a very real set of circumstances that I think that everyone has to be very mindful of going forwards.
So then the bigger picture on AI that me, like everyone, is a mixture of complete terror, generally.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And fears of human annihilation, versus can help me, can help my company and what I do. So we're involved in PR marketing, so we have to think about how AI can come into play. So putting aside the terror of what AI could mean for the human species, putting that aside for the moment, and thinking about how it comes into play in the digital marketing way. So we, as an agency, we are just looking to focus on SEO, which just happen we're looking to focus on now. So again, we bring a specialist to do that. We don't have that knowledge in-house. And we've made a hire on a company that's going to be using AI to help generate blogs for SEO. So there's both human and AI involvement. Why? Because they can churn out, and I use the word churn, but the idea is also to have the quality element, blogs that will do well under SEO in a much faster and perhaps better, later on way than a human could do. Now, and that's got me thinking about care providers and SEO, because at the moment, if, for example, I'm a prospective family member and I'm looking for a care home, where do you live, Simon?
Hertfordshire, a place called Berkhamsted.
Right, I was looking for a care home in Berkhamsted. That's probably where I was. It's care homes in Berkhamsted. Now, probably, I don't know what you would find, but probably carehome.co.uk would rank very, very highly there. Why? Because they've got a great SEO, they've monopolized SEO for these kind of key, golden keyword phrases. Now, if I'm a care home, again, there's work involved here, but there's no reason why AI couldn't start to give your care home a much higher chance of getting content that's going to get you up on those organic rankings of a search when families are searching care homes in Berkhamsted versus the Google pay-per-click, which Google pay-per-click ads will get you at the very, very top within a day. SEO is a long-term play, but the big providers, the big care groups, they've got this sorted, their SEO sorted. They are very good at they are better in SEO. Carehome.co.uk at the moment does monopolize because they've done it better. They've been there for years, but AI could come into play here for the smaller care providers that were determined to do better organically under SEO. So that's one way. And again, it's going to be coming in particularly on Google. I think we'll be using more AI on the Google pay-per-click system they have. And I haven't really thought about the Facebook side, but that's my initial thoughts.
I mean, the Facebook and AI, obviously it's underpinned by an awful lot of AI, but how, I guess, third parties could then integrate and overlay AI onto Facebook advertising, that's, if it's not already a thing, it's probably will be an emergent thing. Maybe that's one for you and I to catch up on in the future, because if there's one thing that's absolutely dead certain, it's that AI is going to become more prevalent and to have a more important role in our day-to-day lives in every type of asset you could almost possibly imagine. So let's make sure that we have that conversation. In the meantime, Adam, an absolute pleasure. You're a master of your craft. You know what you're doing. You've shared some brilliant insights for me and the audience today. So thank you very much for your time and for sharing your wisdom.
Great. Thanks for having me on, Simon.